Welcome to Tune of Voice. I am Lynn. I am collecting voices from people in daily life. There are no fixed scripts, only real voices. Today, I am tuning into the world of international education with a special guest, Dr. Heidi Bloom, an international partnerships manager at a university in Asia, South Korea, and an US American navigating life across cultures. How do different cultures collide, blend, or harmonize in her daily work and personal journey? Let's tune in and hear her story. Let's start with your story. What's your background and what led you become an international partnership manager?
Sure, and thank you for having me here today. I'm excited to be with you. So my background, I didn't make this path very linear. I sort of took this very zigzagged journey to where I am today.
Mhm.
I was never a very good student in school, and so I was really struggling as to what to major in when I was in college. But I focused on international studies. I wanted to be doing some type of humanitarian aid work. But I didn't know much about the field. I didn't have connections, and back then there wasn't as much internet.
Mhm.
Um, However, when I graduated from university, an opportunity came up to work with African asylum seekers in Israel.
Mhm.
But there wasn't a lot of funding, and I wasn't able to support myself financially. So, after 6 months of doing that work, actually, it was my dad that convinced me to go to South Korea to become a teacher.
Oh.
I graduated during the recession in the US, and there were
Uh-huh.
not many jobs. I had an AmeriCorps job get cut 4 times. And so I needed something. And I said to him, why would I become a teacher? I was a terrible student. And he had told me, that's why you'll be a very good teacher, because you'll be able to reach students who are like you, who are intelligent and have potential,
Mhm.
but don't learn in a classroom style. And you can bring that to the classroom. You can bring more experiential learning to the classroom. Just try it for a year. So I did. And I kept telling myself when I landed in South Korea the first time, very
Mhm.
first time in 2009, I said to myself, I just need to last for 6 months. That's it. But after 6 months, I found a rock climbing community and I had incredible co teachers. I was in a small town in the middle of the country. And I just fell in love with the people that I was around. And I actually fell in love with teaching, which was surprising.
That's
I
great.
taught in middle school and 3 elementary schools. But after 2 years of teaching, I felt like it still wasn't quite the perfect fit, though I was getting there.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to continue doing something in international education.
Okay.
That's how I found my master's program in international training and education. And also, I took a few courses that was in my eventual PhD program, though I wasn't in the PhD program yet. And that's how I learned about the world of international education policy. So that field is split into two. Half of it is study abroad, and the other part is international development of education, whether
Mhm.
it's schools, teacher training, or policy. It's very broad. So when I graduated from my master's, I worked in study abroad. And again, I'm still under 30 at this point and wanting to experience more. Study abroad, it felt like um, it felt like study abroad was still for the elite. And it wasn't quite connecting with students that I wanted it to connect with and
Mhm.
get some of that international experience. So I kept digging for something more, for something different. Uh,
Mhm.
I really wanted a little bit more touch of the social justice in my life.
I see.
Um,
Mhm.
so I went into a PhD program to help me learn about how to do that.
Mhm.
And towards the last year or two of my dissertation, I found the position of working uh, in building partnerships. Now, I have to say, I cut out probably about 10 different jobs that I had long term that were about developing partnerships, consulting and organizations and so on. But this is sort of the bits and pieces of what got me to where I am today.
Mhm.
And when I got the position, I was extremely excited because I got to be developing different initiatives that could touch many different students. And the
Mhm.
university I work at in South Korea, it's not for the wealthiest of students.
Mhm.
All students really have an opportunity to go there. There's a lot of scholarships that are offered,
Mhm.
and students from around the world also go there. It's a very international school. So
Mhm.
I was quite excited by the opportunity, and that's where I ended up where I am today.
I see. So it seems like you're stumbling into this. Would you say that this is uh like I believe that you have passion, but would you say that this will be your destination of your career uh, pursuit?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think I still have more I want to do, more I want to learn, more I want to grow in. And I think, I think that this position has taught me a lot about um, how there are always gaps in
Mm,
international ed, no matter where you go, in organizations and so on. And we'll probably talk more about that. But the
right.
biggest gap here in Korea is this massive desire to want to have a more foreign presence in
I see.
universities, in
Mhm.
companies and so on, but there's a gap in how to actually include that foreign
Mhm.
community in those places. And
Okay.
there's a gaps in policy, in HR, in communication. And so I really would like to start diving into more of that kind of work, helping
Okay.
bridge that gap.
So what are the coolest things working between universities, international, and the worst thing? Like anything you can think of. Sure. Sounds
The
great.
negative, it depends on where you are. Every university and every even team within a university is different. Um,
Hmm.
so I definitely struggle with some of the cultural differences for sure. I mean, I've lived abroad for over 10 years of my life since I've been 20 years old. Um, but I still seem to struggle, and 5 of those years were in Korea. I still seem to struggle with some of the ways of doing and points of views. So, there's always that internal conflict. You want to be respectful of the local culture. Um,
Hmm.
but for example, the hierarchy to me, it's a struggle because it brings in issues of gender and
Yeah.
issues of racism, and I
Hmm.
can't be always okay with that. So that's one of the negatives. A couple of the highlights.
Hmm.
I love being able to make really neat partnerships based on what students or faculty are wanting to develop. And that
Oh.
part gets me very excited. So, for example, I was a part of applying for a massive grant with one of our partner institutions. And I had applied in April. We didn't hear back until the following October. In my head, I thought, well, this is never going to happen. I put some work into it, but it wasn't like, months and months of work into the application. So I thought maybe it won't happen.
Hmm.
But then it did. And it has become a really big part of my job. And I'm just so proud of having been on that project from the start. And it really wasn't a part of my job. I kind of took it on as extra. And so that's what made it really special. And part of that is two students, graduate students, get fully funded to study at this partner institution.
Cool.
Another one is three of our faculty members, whom I got to put that team together, get to develop a course on ethical AI in collaboration with our partner university. Um,
Hmm.
there's also a research component to it, in which the faculty don't often get a lot of time to do research or funding and at my specific university. And so this provided an opportunity for them to do that.
Mhm.
And then there's just a couple of other minor activities like evaluations of the curriculum and in collaboration with partners. And stuff like that is just initiatives like that get you so excited because you get to see
Mhm.
the faculty doing something they wouldn't otherwise get to do. Students are getting to study abroad and it's affordable and accessible. So that is definitely like one of the highlights of the job. And then anytime a student comes back from studying abroad and it's a partnership that I started and made, it feels great. It feels
Mhm.
great that I was able to impact someone's life, even if they don't know that it was me that did it. I get to hear about it, and that's enough for me. I love it.
Wow. So that you also talked about that, like social justice is a huge part of your educational goals and even your personal goals. Do you think that at this job, in your current position, um, are you working toward that goal now?
Uh, Sometimes I feel like I am blocked in being able to because it's not
Okay.
necessarily a priority of the school or, the people that I work with.
Hmm.
But I still have it in the core values of everything that I do.
I see.
So I think like this project that I was just speaking about, the project of being able to send students for free to go study abroad, I
Hmm.
think that comes out of my core values of social justice. Yeah,
I
giving
see.
access to students who otherwise wouldn't get it. Um, I definitely think that it's always going to be a core part of my life, no matter where I am. Uh,
Hmm.
I don't think I want to live any other way.
Okay. And so for some audiences, like they might be curious about like how do you even start with a partnership between two universities? Like for example, like anything that's challenging um,
There are so
to
many
this,
challenges.
I bet.
My TA the other day was sending out a couple of emails for me, and nobody ever responded.
Mhm.
And I really think it was just about the type of email that she was sending it out from. But it 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 hurt that she was ghosted by these partners. And
Mhm.
to be honest, I don't get hurt by that. People are extremely busy. But it can be a challenge. Like the
Mhm.
majority of the time, partners won't want to email you and say, "Oh, we're not really interested in this partner, but thank you for checking in." When I
Right.
do those emails, I'm actually really grateful for the effort that they put in because not many
Mhm.
do. But oftentimes we also get emailed, and some university is very excited to partner with us,
Mhm.
but then ghosts us. And so we put time and energy into every project and partnership. Sometimes that means course mapping, which can take months with departments, and then
Mhm.
not to hear back. It's frustrating because it means that all of the work that you put into it went to nothing. And
Mhm.
not for a good reason, not that anyone said that it wasn't going to work. If the course doesn't match up, it doesn't make sense to move forward with it. I completely agree. But that can be pretty challenging. And then politics and bureaucratical issues and
Mhm.
policies that make jobs harder. And because this is about partnerships, um,
Mhm.
there's different, maybe upper management that have different priorities,
Mhm.
and that you have to try to manage everyone's priorities when sometimes those priorities don't actually match academia or don't match, like ethics of the university. They're not very student oriented, they're just about business. Um,
Mhm.
so that part, I think, can be extremely challenging.
Okay. So would you think that that would be something more taking its toll on you, or it's something that give you sense of achievement, or it could be both?
it takes a toll.
I
It
see.
definitely takes a toll. So
Hmm.
that was actually the challenge that I wanted to bring up. All
Hmm.
universities have become a little bit run more like a business,
Right.
and
Mm,
business does not always work out with academics.
mm,
And there's these conflicting ways of managing between academics and business. And of course, universities, you need to make money to run.
mhm,
You need to pay your employees and your faculty and so on. But for curriculum or for departments to be open based on business and not based
mhm,
on academics or quality, that's problematic. And so um, I am not very good at keeping quiet when I
mhm,
see those types of issues. And so I have to pick my battles, and I
mhm,
have started to. I definitely have boundaries. The older I get, I have more and more boundaries. But it is very taxing, and it can take a toll on me both mentally and physically, to feel like I'm problem solving more than
mhm.
creating, or I'm hitting more walls than I am completing projects. And that definitely takes a toll.
I see. So, for students who are watching, what do you think? How do this partnership benefit
This
them?
can benefit them obviously because they're
Mhm,
pathways into studying abroad, and
mhm,
their pathways into greater networks in their field. Studying
right.
abroad in will always expand your network. It will always. With
Mhm,
the faculty, with the students, you never know where you might live someday in the world. And having those connections, and not just connections for the sake of getting a job, but connections that can, you can learn from, because it teaches you problem solving skills. It teaches you to think outside of your previous world and experience. So those types of partnerships, they can lead to pathways to being just a better human being in the future, and
Yes.
just by having that study abroad experience or having research experience or so on. uh,
Mhm.
yeah.
And on the other hand, I always like to play devil's advocate. Like, what are the myths of studying abroad? If you there are some suggestions you can give for
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a really good question. I was thinking about this when you sent that question to me, because
Mhm,
there are so many issues with study abroad.
mhm,
Uh, One of the biggest issues is students tend to think that it's going to be so fun. It's like a vacation. They're not going to
mhm,
be studying as much as they do in their home institution.
mhm,
Sometimes the classes are actually harder than your home institution, and you're navigating systems that you didn't have to navigate before.
mhm,
So a lot of times in the first like 2, 3, 4 weeks, you have this really feeling of a lot of excitement. It's an
mhm,
adventure. But then after that first month or honeymoon phase, you
mhm,
can crash. You can really crash and start to feel lonely. One of the biggest issues is students tend to stay in their room when they go study
mhm,
abroad, or they only hang out with people from the same country or culture that they come from. And they
mhm,
don't actually get to know anybody from the local culture. It sounded like a good idea before they went there, but then they got there, and it's really the easiest just to spend time with other international students.
mhm.
Um, but that's probably not when you're going to grow the most. And that's probably when you might feel the loneliest. So
Mhm.
getting out there and continuing the adventure by putting yourself outside of your box um, is super beneficial, but it's not as easy as some might think. So
Yeah, if someone wants to work in your position or a similar position, what skills should they build today, or what kind of suggestion you'll give them?
there's one main skill that you need to develop, and that's your communication skills. You
Mhm.
have to have solid communication skills, learn how to write emails well, and be
Mm.
kind, but set boundaries in emails. You have to learn how to set boundaries. You have
Okay.
to learn work-life balance because international ed will never pay that much.
Oh, wow.
It will take in from you because you're passionate about it, right? Like
Mhm.
you know
Mhm.
this because
Yes.
you're like this too. More than anyone I know, you're like this.
Yeah.
But international ed is about having a passion and caring, but you have to have boundaries to take care of yourself and have work-life balance.
Mhm.
But yeah, going back to communication skills,
Mm.
um, learning how to listen more than speak,
Mm.
very important. Learning how to compromise and negotiate, really important in partnership work.
Mhm.
And that comes with getting international exposure. The more places that you go and you don't just hang out with people from your own culture, you speak with people across cultures and learn the differences.
Mhm.
Then you'll learn more about what your boundaries are. You'll learn more about how to communicate with people from different places around the world. And honestly, every other skill when you go into a job can be learned. Every other
Mhm.
skill, but communication needs to be practiced. It needs to be
Right.
practiced all the time.
Yeah. You also talked about setting boundaries. Do you think, first, my question for this is, what kind of boundary you're talking about? Is it different or it varies with different cultural contexts?
It varies.
Mm.
So, for example, when you're living internationally, at
Mhm.
the university that I work at, there's a huge international community. And I think because there's sort of in this culture in South Korea, there
Mhm.
is sort of an issue where, like I think, don't quote me on this, but it is around, I think 80% of Koreans don't even have really an opportunity to speak to a foreigner. And
Mhm.
so there's this separation between the Koreans and between all of the foreigners. And so when you work at a university such as mine, the foreigner community sort of builds a community that's just both professional and personal.
Right.
And sometimes those can get confused. So personal issues are brought into your professional life, and that
Mhm.
shouldn't happen when you're in that international community because that can impact students, that can impact your colleagues. So, like a lot of my personal life was shared with people, and it
Mhm.
shouldn't have been. But it's just like people thought, oh, we're celebrating or oh, we're, upset for her. It was all in kindness.
Um,
But there's a boundary in my personal life and me having friends personally, talking to people in my professional world, because that can impact my job and how I get to work within my team.
Mhm.
And so there's that boundary, and then there's the other boundary. The other boundary, the second boundary, probably the more important boundary, is knowing like because you have that passion for your work,
Mhm.
don't you can't take it home every single day, 7 days a week. So you don't need to keep it within your working hours, of course. If you're
Right.
passionate about your work, you always work outside of the hours. But your mental health and your sanity, like if
Mm.
you work until you drop and then you have to take, a week break just to sleep, relax, and not think about work, it's not healthy. It's
Right.
not healthy. And
Can you share some most rewarding moments in
I,
your position right now?
I think because of all of the problems I've faced at this university, I have learned more patience and I have built more confidence in myself to resolve problems without screaming inside of my head. Um, I think it's my personal development that's the most rewarding. But I couldn't have done it without the colleagues such as you who taught me a lot about how to act in the workplace and how to keep what's important to me
Mhm.
in my daily values in my work. Um, I think that has to be the most valuable, other than, like a few projects here and there. But at the end of the day, the projects go on, right? Without you or
Right.
not. And what you're left with is how much you grew from them. When you
Mhm.
stop growing, it's time for you to leave that job.
Right. Thank you, Heidi. Um, so our time is up. I really look forward to next time when you come back and share. I do have some more questions about if you want to share something, pros and cons working at the university, or something that you might think it's a good suggestions for our audiences. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I can't wait to
Yes.
come back.
Bye.